Hey Bearcats, and welcome to Chapter 1. So today what we're going to do is we are going to cover Chapter 1. I have the PowerPoint notes either on webcom, you can print them off of webcom, or you can right here on Blackboard go to Unit 1 and select the PowerPoint for Chapter 1 or the notes for Chapter 1. You can click on those. That way you have the notes to follow along as we progress through Chapter 1. We are going to go over the Chapter 1 PowerPoint notes here. On this webinar, so to speak, you are going to see the slides pop up just as if you were in class, and you're going to hear my voice over those so you can take additional notes, just like you would, like I said, if we were sitting in a face-to-face in-class portion. Chapter 1 is going to be an overview of really what this class is all about, lifetime health and wellness. It's going to talk about the importance of health, importance of wellness, and why it is important for you to learn this information, particularly now while you are still young enough to make some dramatic changes to your lifestyle in a positive way so you can have a lasting, healthy effect for all that stuff. So we're going to cover, like I said, the basics of what this class is about. Number one, why it's important to live a healthy lifestyle, not just for today, but that long-term effect that it can have, particularly as our bodies age and as we get older. You'll see that the average lifespan is expanding, over almost 80 years old. So you have to think about, in that sense too, if you want to live healthy and happy through 80, 85, 90 years old, in order to do that, you have to take care of your body now. And one thing that we're seeing over and over and over again, more so now than ever, is that we're not doing that. And a lot of that falls on our generation, our older generation, so to speak, even how we were raised and how some of our kids are being raised right now, to where they're not living that healthy lifestyle. We're taking PE out of the school system. The kids are not as active as what they used to be. Instead of running around and playing in the neighborhood, they are, playing Xbox or in front of an Apple iPhone or something like that. So the activity is just not there. We're eating more and more fast food. So we really need to concern ourselves with this epidemic. And you'll see as we continue on, particularly later in the semester, you'll see things about diabetes and obesity, even other cancers and things like that, that so many of them are preventable if we just live a healthy lifestyle. And what we are accustomed to now is, instead of being proactive, we are reactive. And what I mean by that is, so many of our health concerns we're starting to notice when we're 40, 50, 60 years old, but instead of trying to combat them by living healthier in our 20s and 30s, we wait till we have high blood pressure, we have heart problems, and what we start doing is we start taking blood pressure medication or different medicines reactively to try to help us once we get to that point. And rather, what we should be doing is being proactive. So look at what you can start doing now. Most of you guys that are watching this are 18, 19, 20, early 20s. You still have so much time to have a positive impact on your long-term health and wellness. And the better you can take care of yourself now, the more of these healthy habits that you can implement now, the greater effect it's not just going to have for you today, but also 5, 10, 20, 50 years and plus down the road. So again, the main thing here is we want to adapt these healthy lifestyles. The principles that we talk about throughout this chapter and throughout this class are simple, they're proven, they're factual. So many things, and I do want to touch on this, so many things that you hear in the fitness and wellness or fitness and health industry, the fad diets and those sort of things, you'll see as we progress throughout the semester, those, that is not what we're talking about. We want the healthy lifestyle habits that you can do day in and day out for the longevity of your life. We don't want some quick fix, because that's just what it is. It's a quick fix. It doesn't work. It doesn't have that long-term lasting effect. And what you'll find is many of those quick fix type things, those diet pills or these fad diets, really are unhealthy for you. They're unhealthy habits, and they can create a lot of unhealthy things within your body. That is certainly something to be concerned with. So, what we want to do is we want to teach you the right way to live healthy, the right way to impact your wellness for that long-term success. So, like I said, Chapter 1 is going to be a very brief overview of a lot of those topics. Again, why it is so important for us to take note of that, and how you can start having and adapting some of these daily habits to have that great effect not just on your health now, but through the long term. So this is the introduction. Hang with me. If you haven't done so already, grab your PowerPoint notes because I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint and you can take some additional notes as we progress through here. So hang tight. Let me pull up the PowerPoint notes and we're going to jump right into chapter 1. All right, guys, now that you have the PowerPoint notes pulled up, follow along with me as we dive in to chapter 1. And if you hear some paper shuffling in the background, that's just me flipping through some notes. So hopefully you won't hear much of that, but that's what it is if you do hear it. So jumping into chapter 1, what we're doing is we're looking at the health status of Americans. And this is currently as of today, right now. And some of these statistics are pretty staggering. So they'll probably catch your attention, but here's some of these statistics. Most causes of morbidity and mortality in the U.S. are highly preventable. So basically what that's saying is many of the things that cause death, that cause Americans to die, are highly preventable, especially a lot of the things that cause us to die early. And you'll see what life expectancy is here in a little bit, but those that cause us to die earlier or sooner than what we should, so many of those are preventable if we would take the proper action as children. And I know we don't necessarily have control of it as children, but if you guys are parents or soon to be parents or will be parents in the future, if you can start these healthy habits with your kids that progress through teenagers and then college and so on and so forth, they're going to have so much more success in dealing with these health issues than what those who aren't. So again, most of these causes are highly preventable. We'll touch on that as we progress throughout this particular chapter. Chronic disease caused by unhealthy behavior dominate the causes of death in the U.S. And again, chronic disease is long-term disease. So that means that it happens over time. It's not something that you have an unhealthy behavior today and then all of a sudden tomorrow, boom, you're dead. It causes death. That's not the case. What chronic disease means is it's weeks after weeks, months after months, years after years of unhealthy behaviors that lead to these particular types of diseases. That's chronic disease. You'll see even as we go along how life expectancy back in the turn of the century, the 1900s, used to be about 40 years old. So what was happening is people were dying before some of these types of diseases that we see today, from high blood pressure to heart problems to even some of the cancers and diabetes and osteoporosis and things like that. They would die before these diseases would have time to take hold and wreak the havoc that they do. Where now, as we are starting to live longer and longer into our 70s and 80s, these chronic diseases are starting to show themselves. And if we don't take care of ourselves early on, we're so much more susceptible to these chronic diseases as we age and over time. So 2/3 of deaths in the United States caused by only 5 chronic diseases. So 66% of deaths in the U.S. are caused by these 5 diseases. Number 1 being heart disease. Number 2 being cancer and stroke. Number 3, chronic lower respiratory disease and diabetes. So these causes of death, much of it can be prevented. And again, these are chronic diseases, so they happen over time. So again, it's not like you can be unhealthy one day and then all of a sudden tomorrow you have heart disease. The heart disease, some cancers, stroke, respiratory disease, diabetes, etc., are lifetime diseases. They're those chronic diseases that occur over time and years of unhealthy behaviors. The United States ranks 35th in life expectancy. So let that sink in for a minute. Think about all the things that America is great at. And when we start looking at different statistics, and if you look at different statistics from an economic standpoint or whatever it may be, typically America is very high in a lot of these rankings, and that's what makes our country so desirable. So when you start looking at that, and then you look at it, we're 35th in life expectancy. So from all the technology that we have and all the resources that we have and the healthcare that we have, etc., we're still only 35th in life expectancy, and that's shocking. But the reason is it's not because we don't have the knowledge or the technology or the resources. It's because we live more unhealthy than so many other countries around the world. And that's due to poor diet, lack of nutrition, lack of exercises. We're making unhealthy choices. We are creating dangerous habits, etc. And that's what's causing us to rank so poorly in life expectancy. And as we progress through here, the diseases of lifestyle account for the majority of deaths in the U.S., account for the majority of U.S. deaths annually. And again, the diseases of lifestyle are the things that cause us. So again, if we eat poorly over a lifetime, we're going to have more likely to become obese. If we become obese, we have so much more likelihood of developing diabetes, heart disease, things like that. For those of you guys that use tobacco, if any of you guys use tobacco, smoking. Well, smoking, it's not like you smoke one cigarette and then all of a sudden tomorrow you have a respiratory disease. But if you smoke over years at a time, that's what causes those types of diseases. So again, it's a disease of lifestyle. So again, the point here is if we can just have a healthier diet, if we can exercise a little bit more often, and if we can make healthier choices throughout our lifestyle, you can greatly reduce the risks of many of these chronic diseases. So again, going back to that middle bullet point, 2/3, 66% of deaths in the U.S. are caused by those chronic diseases, many of which could be prevented if we lived a healthier lifestyle. And another thing to note, because I do believe this is one of the test questions, the number one killer of men and women in America is heart disease. The number one killer, when we look at all the reasons why people die, the number one killer in America for men and women is heart disease, and the number two killer is cancer. And I know some of you guys might say, well, how can cancer be preventable and etc.? Well, one thing that we are going to talk about are there certain things that you can do to potentially prevent cancer. One simple one in the climate that we live in, it's hot, it's sunny, but skin cancer is very prevalent. So practicing safe skin habits and wearing sunscreen and staying in the shade or not going out during certain times of the day could be one of those things that's preventable. Another thing that we want to talk about too, maybe not just the prevention of it, but the detection of it. So if you go through proper screenings and assessments and you look at your family history, taking in that kind of knowledge and information might help you detect cancer earlier. And as we get to talking about cancer later in the semester, you'll see the earlier you detect it, the more likely you are to survive it. So that's one of the things that we also want to note about living a healthy lifestyle too, is making sure that you are getting your regular checkups and taking care of yourself and being aware of your family health history. And that's one of the assessments that you'll have here in Chapter 1 as well. So again, kind of covering and wrapping up this slide, you'll see that talking about the United States ranks 35th in life expectancy. Another interesting statistic that's actually listed in your book is, we're 35th in life expectancy, but we spend 22% more than any other country on health-related stuff. So, that just goes to show you we're spending more money, and a lot of that is coming into the medicines and the reactiveness of your blood pressure medication, your heart medication, etc., instead of taking the precautions and living that healthier lifestyle throughout. So here's another statistic to let this sink in, but it's estimated the United States will spend $4.8 trillion on health care by the year 2020. And much of that could be prevented by living a healthy lifestyle, because again, much of that cost, that financial, when we talk about $4.8 trillion, is based on medicine to help control blood pressure, medicine to help combat diabetes. And again, if we could just prevent those types of diseases in the first place, we would never get to the point of having to utilize that medicine and the cost being so high. So moving on, but again, talking about the diseases of lifestyle, which are often controllable. So we talk about smoking and other tobacco. Again, we talked about the number two cancer, or the number two killer between men and women in America is cancer. And a lot of that is based on smoking and use of tobacco. That's actually one of the number one behaviors, and not just from a cancer standpoint, but talking about smoking and tobacco also leads to a lot of heart disease. So again, that's something that can be preventable. Poor diet and physical inactivity, which is, also leads to obesity. And again, you decide what you put into your body in terms of a diet, and you decide what type of activities you participate in, or lack of activities you participate in. So again, you have complete control over your diet and your physical activity. The next one on there is alcohol consumption. And that's a lot of different things, and not just from an unhealthy standpoint of the alcohol itself, but think about, particularly being in a college atmosphere, if you're on a college campus, the activities that go along with increased alcohol consumption. So that's where a lot of accidents can occur. So again, not just talking about the unhealthiness of the alcohol itself, but the results of making poor decisions because of the alcohol consumption also leads to it. And here's just a simple one too. But you go out on a Thursday night and you go out and you have alcohol consumption, etc. The odds are you're not going to go home when the bar closes. The odds are you're going to go through Whataburger or Jack in the Box or something like that. And now that alcohol consumption has now led to a poor decision of adding to a poor diet, so to speak. So you can see how it just kind of adds on top of each other. But again, other poor lifestyle choices is stress and poor sleep. Again, on a college campus, sleeping habits are poor at best. You tend to stay up later than what you should. You're always feeling tired, etc. There's no regular health exams or screenings. When you're in high school, particularly a lot of you guys probably were involved in either athletics or band or some type of activity, and you had to have your yearly physical. Well, as you progress into college and you make that adjustment, you might not be participating in those activities, and therefore there's not that requirement to have an annual physical examination. So are you doing it? When was the last time you had a regular health exam or a screening? And then we also look at, like I talked about earlier, protecting yourself from the sun. And then again, on a college campus, another popular thing is the sexual behaviors. Obviously those can be poor choices depending on partners and how you choose to participate in those different activities, etc. So again, these are all diseases of lifestyle, things that you can control within your life to either have a positive impact on your health and wellness or a negative impact on your health and wellness. So talking about individual control, there's a quote here by Lester Breslow. It's what you do hour by hour, day by day that largely determines the state of your health. Whether you get sick, what you get sick with, and perhaps when you die. So again, it's talking about what you do hour by hour. This is that chronic effect of long-term. You can't just eat healthy for a week and expect those health benefits to last your lifetime. At the same time, if you're unhealthy for 1 week, you can't necessarily say, well, that's going to make me unhealthy the rest of my life. It's what you do repetitive. And again, that's why we call it habits. What you do day in and day out over a long period of time is what is going to have that impact on your health and wellness. And again, if you have the positive impact on your health and wellness, it's going to lead to a healthier lifestyle. That negative impact, if you are eating poorly, you're not exercising, you're practicing unsafe sexual behaviors, etc., well, then that could lead to what you get sick, or when you get sick, what you get sick with, and even perhaps when you die. So again, so many of these things are in your control. And again, it's not just one-time big things. It's what you do day in and day out, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and year by year. So make sure you understand that. Uncontrollable life events will occur, but most of our health and wellness is within our control. So here's what we'll go to show you right here. 4 determinants of health or health and wellness. 51% comes from your behavior and your lifestyle. So those are the things that we've already talked about. What you're eating, what you're putting into your body, your activity. Are you exercising? What are your sexual behaviors? What does your alcohol consumption look like? Are you smoking? Are you exposing yourself to the sun too much? Things like that. 51% of that comes from behavior and lifestyles in which you have a control over. Now we look at the next thing, heredity. 20% comes from heredity. Now, you can't necessarily change the fact of your genetics or who your parents were, so that 20% is a pretty hard number. However, what you can do with that information is look at family history. So if you can look at your biological parents and understand even down the family line if there are certain types of cancers that are prevalent, if there's heart disease that is prevalent, if diabetes is prevalent, etc., then you must understand that you are more susceptible to those types of diseases. And what you can then do is make better decisions based on your activities, or also get screenings. If you know that a certain type of cancer has run in the family, well, then you need to make sure during your regular physical examinations and your screenings that you're checking for that, because again, the earlier you can detect that, the better chance you have of survival. So even though you can't change your heredity, you can make smarter decisions based off of that information. The next one is environment, 19%. Now, some of the stuff cannot be controllable, but again, some of it can be controllable. And again, one thing that I'll just show you, but again, the environment in which we live in with the sun, and the sun exposure can lead to a lot of cases of skin damage and skin cancer. So again, maybe limiting certain times of the day that you're outside. Make sure you're wearing either long sleeves or a hat or sunscreen, staying in the shade, etc., whatever it may be. So even though you can't necessarily change the environment, you can make smarter decisions based upon the environment. And then again, that last one is medical care is 10%. So again, you can have some impact on that based on where you're located at. Are you choosing to take advantage of the medical care? If you're here a student at Sam Houston State University, you have access to the health center, and you can utilize that medical care. Much of that comes within your student fees as it is already. So are you utilizing the resources that you have available to you? So even looking at the breakdown from this, behavior and lifestyle is the overwhelming majority at 51%. But even the heredity, the environment, and the medical care, even though some of that stuff you do not have, you can't have an effect on, you can make smarter decisions based on that. So as you can see, over half of your determinants of health are within your control. And again, it comes down to eating healthy, what type of diet you have, are you exercising, are you protecting yourself from unhealthy behaviors? You are in control of all that kind of stuff. So that is something to make sure that you take note on. And here's just also something too that's interesting in the book as well. I think it's on page 3 or 4, but it talks about college students, and saying through the different research and statistics that about 60% of college students state that they are in good or excellent health. However, if you look further through that, it talks about only 5% are getting the servings of fruit and vegetables that they need. Only 40% are getting the recommended amount of exercise. Only 10% are getting enough sleep. Only 53% are that are sexually active are using protection. 85% feel overwhelmed or stressed in the last 12 months. So again, you can see that many of the college students feel that they are healthy, but when we start looking and diving a little bit deeper into it, you can see that that's not necessarily the case. So hopefully if we're able to put this information out there, you can understand what it is, you can begin making more decisions so you are living that healthier lifestyle. So talking about additional influence on your health, the locus of control. Internal locus of control is like the internal motivation, something that happens within inside you. You're self-motivated. The external locus of control is an external motivator. And again, that can be something that is extremely effective. And just to give you an example, that's like using a fitness trainer or a personal trainer or a workout partner. And a lot of times those are so effective because it is an external locus of control. It's something outside of you in which motivates you. So that's the difference between internal and external. Health disparities. So here's a couple of things that can lead to different disparities within your health. But ethnicity, obviously not something that you can control. Race, culture, and then there's some other things, poverty, lower educational attainment, your geographical location, lack of health literacy, limited access to health information and services. So a lot of that stuff you can't control. However, understanding that there are different ethnicities or races that are more susceptible to certain types of diseases is what we want to try to get to, because that will help you make healthier decisions based on that information. Just like culture, there's different cultures around the world. Different cultures have many different types of lifestyles and diets and foods they eat. So again, everybody comes from a different culture, but understanding what your culture is more susceptible to, if there is any health disparities, you need to be aware of that so you can make smarter decisions moving forward from here. There is that there on the bottom, Healthy People Initiative Framework. There are 2 additional PowerPoints to this on webcom if you do want to check them out. And it goes more in depth about the Healthy People 2020, which is an initiative which is really interesting. So if you have some time, check that out. It is a voiced over PowerPoint just like this, which will provide a lot of additional information for you. So moving along to the components of health-related physical fitness. So this is what we are going to focus on. This is what we are going to focus on for the majority of the semester. So we have cardiorespiratory and cardiovascular endurance. So many of you guys are probably familiar with the term cardio or cardio exercise, but cardiorespiratory and cardiovascular endurance, cardio is dealing with the heart. And you can see this is going to be the most important aspect, the most important component of health-related physical fitness, because it is going to be the greatest determinant of our long-term health. So if we want to increase life expectancy, if we want to increase our overall well-being, the number one way to do that is through cardiorespiratory and cardiovascular endurance. So it is very important, and we're going to spend a whole chapter talking about it as we progress through the semester. But one thing to note here is, and I'll be talking to mostly the guys when I say this, but guys want to talk about being healthy and being fit, and many of that involves lifting weights, which is great because you can see even on here we talk about muscular strength, but they just focus on the weight training or lifting weights. They want to gain that muscular physique, etc. So they spend all their exercise time lifting weights, which is great. You do want to increase your muscular strength. However, you're not focusing on the main component of health-related physical fitness, which is cardiorespiratory endurance or cardiovascular endurance. So regardless of what your optimal health goals are, whether you just want to look fit or have that muscular physique or whatever it is, you need to make sure that you are incorporating cardiorespiratory and cardiovascular endurance into your daily, weekly routine, because that is the number one component, the greatest component to long-term health, which will help increase life expectancy. So that is your cardiorespiratory endurance. The next one is body composition. What body composition deals with is the difference between lean body mass and fat mass. So obviously your body is made up of a lot of different things. And the fat mass is a percentage which is based on how much fat your body is composed of. The lean muscle mass has everything to do with your organs, to your bones, to your skin, to your muscles, to your tendons, to your ligaments. And the body composition is simply talking about how much proportion of each of those is within your body. And what we'll identify is, from a body composition standpoint, we want to be in a healthy body fat percentage range. Now, as Americans, the biggest concern is so many of us are our body fat percentages are too high, where we're either over fat or we're obese, which leads to a whole bunch of health-related issues. Now, at the same time, there are some instances, it's a little bit more rare than the obese or the overweight, but you can be underweight. You can actually have too little body fat, which can be unhealthy as well, which we'll talk about later in the semester. But body composition is talking about the difference between your lean body mass and your fat mass within your body. Muscular strength is simply talking about how strong you are, muscular strength. And what that is about is how much force you can impose on a particular object. So muscular strength does not have time as a factor. So some common things, examples of muscular strength, would be maxing out in the weight room. So if you are going to do a max out bench press or a squat or a deadlift, you're simply looking at how much weight can you move. You're not looking at how many times you can move it. You're not looking at how fast you can move it. You're simply looking at how much force you can apply to that bar, to that weight, to move that. So again, muscular strength just looks at the maximum force. How much weight can you move? It does not take into account how fast or how many times you can move it. Muscular endurance now takes on that component of how long you can sustain that particular activity. So when you look at muscular endurance, you want to be able to sustain activity for a longer period of time. Even something simple, if you look at walking. Walking does not take that much muscular strength, but it could take some muscular endurance. Even here in the Huntsville area, and you're walking up and down hills, it's a little bit more difficult than what a lot of the other Texas regions are used to, especially the Houston area with being flat. but that is muscular endurance, how long you can sustain that type of activity from a muscular standpoint. So again, muscular strength is if you were to lift an object one time. Muscular endurance would be if you were to lift it over and over and over again or hold it into a certain position. How long can you sustain those muscular contractions? And the last one is flexibility, range of motion. This is probably one that many of you guys do not focus on. Those that are physically active right now probably don't do a lot with flexibility, but it is very, very important, more so as we progress later on through life. If you look at the elderly population, so many of their limiting factors is because they're not flexible enough. They're not flexible enough to bend down there and tie their shoes. They're not flexible enough to be able to reach their hand above their head and pull something out of the cabinet. They're not flexible enough to be able to sit down into a car. Things along those lines. So again, we don't really see the effects of that now because we're able to move through there. But over time, as we get increase in age, if we're not able to maintain that range of motion through our joints and flexibility of our muscles, then we're not going to be able to perform some of the easiest daily tasks that we take for granted now. But again, look at the elderly population and look at a lot of the activities that they struggle with or they're not able to do is because they can't move through that particular range of motions. Their muscles have lost that flexibility needed. So again, it's something that you want to incorporate to make sure that you remain flexible or as flexible as you can be. I know everybody has certain limits to their flexibility, but at least maintain working flexibility so you're not limited as you increase in age. So some indicators of health status. Again, this is listed in your book, I believe on page 9, and there's a lot of other ones that go along with it. But indicators of your current health status, body composition, we already talked about it before, and basically that is a measurement of your body fat percentage and how much body fat you have within your body. Again, it's determining the difference between lean muscle mass or lean body mass versus fat mass. Maximum oxygen consumption. This is the number one way to basically determine your cardiorespiratory endurance. It's going to look at how well your body can use oxygen to fuel your body because everything in your body has to have oxygen to be able to perform. That is a requirement for your muscles, for everything to move. You have to have oxygen. So how well your body utilizes that oxygen is a key component in your health status. So maximum oxygen consumption, your VO2 max, are critical indicators of your health status. Blood pressure. Okay, everybody's familiar with blood pressure. You can, every time you go to the doctor, they take your blood pressure. Even last couple times, I think I went to the dentist, they take your blood pressure. So you can look at your health status based on your blood pressure. So see what is the acceptable range. Same thing with cholesterol, testing your cholesterol. Now, this isn't done as frequently or as often, and many of you guys maybe have never had cholesterol checked. But as you start getting up there in age, or if you notice that family history indicates that many people have high cholesterol, it might be something you want to start monitoring. Other indicators of health status, flexibility and abdominal strength. There's different things you can do that indicates how healthy you are in that regard. Risk for cancer, diabetes, and osteoporosis. Everybody's familiar with cancer. Diabetes we'll dive into a lot more throughout this semester, but there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes, and they've taken that term away because now we're starting to see type 2 diabetes occur in much younger population, and basically the type 2 diabetes is based on a poor diet and lack of exercise. Overweight and obese individuals are highly susceptible to the type 2 diabetes, so it has become a greater risk and a greater disease that we need to concern ourselves with. And then osteoporosis, particularly as we age, and more so with the female population, but osteoporosis is loss of bone mass. And you'll see we'll touch on osteoporosis as we progress throughout the semester too, but by having proper diet and daily exercise, you can prevent that loss of bone mass. And you can see with a lot of elderly people, when they fall, what do? They usually break a hip, they break a wrist if they try to catch themselves, and it's because their bones are nowhere near as strong or as dense as what they once used to be. So being able to do things early on that can help prevent the onset of osteoporosis, will help your bones stay stronger as you age. I'm talking about caloric intake and expenditure, so how many calories you are intaking versus how many calories you are expending, your stress status, and even your resting pulse or your resting heart rate. All of those are simple indicators of your current health status. So again, you can look on page 9 in your book, in your textbook, and you can look at these indicators and also what is considered a healthy status or a healthy indicator within each one of those. So, and again, as we progress throughout the semester, we'll touch on many of these different ones and go in more depth or detail about it. But again, at least visiting your book in page 9 right now, you'll gain a lot more information on what these indicators are, and you can even test these for yourself right now. You can there's a lot of resources. You can go to the rec center and probably get your body composition checked. There's even different things. You'll see that we'll do some simple tests that will give you a pretty good indicator of what your maximum oxygen consumption is. In terms of blood pressure, you can go to any pharmacy, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, anywhere, and you'll see that little thing you can sit in, you stick your arm in, and you can test your blood pressure right now, today. So many of these things you can actually take a look at right now, today, this week, and find out what your health status is based on these indicators listed here. So here's some benefits of being physically fit. The benefits are in list. I don't think there's any way we can sum them all up here, but here is a lot of them that we'll touch on today. But the first one are psychological benefits. So obviously to your muscular and skeletal system. From a muscular standpoint, increasing your muscular strength, increasing your muscular flexibility, increasing your muscular endurance, and your skeletal system in terms of bone mass, bone density. Any movement that you partake in, even something as lifting the pencil off the desk, moving the computer mouse, even something as simple as that, takes muscular and skeletal systems to move. Your skeletal system is a contraption of levers, and the only way that those bones can move is if your muscles, your ligaments, and your tendons move them. So it's important for just any type of movement, walking, anything, to the most difficult tasks require muscular and skeletal systems. So that is one of the benefits. Any type of movement you will have a greater impact on by being physically fit. Your heart and your circulatory system, so your heart and pumping blood to the different parts of your body. We all know how important that is. Obviously, if your heart stops, your body stops. So creating a more effective system of getting the blood, the oxygenated blood to your body, the deoxygenated blood removed, your heart and circulatory system. Lungs and respiratory system, again, so breathing. Here's just a simple one. Everybody knows, obviously, if you're physically fit, you can go out there and walk a mile, run a mile, 10 miles, whatever your activity level is, and your respiratory rate's pretty good. If we've ever been to the point where we're unhealthy, we're out of shape, it might be simple as something walking to go get the garbage can, or walking up a flight of stairs, and the next thing you know, we're breathing hard. Because our lungs, our respiratory system is having to work so much harder than what it would be if we were physically fit. So again, being physically fit will have a positive impact on the lungs and respiratory system. The digestive and excretory system, so even things from digestive health, which is starting to become a bigger topic now, but becoming regular and your body being able to regulate itself and digest different things is a huge benefit of being physically fit. The nervous system, which basically sends signals to your body. We'll talk about some of the stuff actually here in a minute, one of the next couple of slides down here, but talking about the nervous system and how your brain sends signals to different parts of your body. And the last thing is the body composition. Again, we've touched on this a few times throughout the topic today, but the body composition deals with your body fat percentage versus your lean body mass percentage. So again, the benefits of being physically fit touch on all of those different physiological topics. In addition to that, it's going to improve your posture and flexibility. Again, not something you may be concerned with now, but again, look at the elderly population, those that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and what are some of the things that you see that they struggle with on a regular basis is poor posture and inflexibility. So they have such a hard time doing those daily tasks that we take for granted. So again, if you don't adapt the physically fit lifestyle now, you're going to fall into that same situation. Whereas if you are able to incorporate some of this physical activity, you're going to improve your posture and flexibility. You're going to improve your appearance and feeling of well-being. So obviously we don't want to make this about appearance, but think about it. If you look good, you feel good, type of thing. And in terms of that, if you exercise, and again, that's probably one of the main motivators that people try to exercise, is to lose weight and look good. You see it all the time, particularly in the spring semester. You got spring break coming up. So what happens? A month before spring break, everybody hits the gym and the weight room or whatever it is, and they try to lose these pounds because they want to look great in a swimsuit. And that goes for men and women combined. So again, it does have that improved appearance and that feeling of well-being. Think about times throughout your life where you've been healthy versus maybe when you haven't been healthy. And when do you feel better? You always feel better when you're physically fit, when you're eating healthier, when you're exercising. So it just has a great impact on that overall well-being from just a day-to-day perspective and how you feel about yourself. And some more benefits here, but talking about social, provides a social outlet, companionship. So those of you guys that work out with a buddy, work out with a partner, work out with a friend, you get a chance to talk. You get a chance to have that social outlet, visit with each other, companionship. Even if you play any kind of intramural sports or you're in competitive athletics or whatever it is, you're on a team, you have competition, but you're doing something with other people, and it provides that social outlet for you. And that's something as people that we need. Now, obviously, some people are much more social than others, but regardless of that, it provides an opportunity for that social outlet, that friendship, that companionship, being a part of a team, etc. Also, psychological benefits. So this is something that we'll touch on as well. And when we talk about being physically fit, so many people think about the physical part of it. But from a psychological standpoint, it delays degeneration of mental activity. So again, as we age, being physically fit can actually help our mind stay fit, so to speak. It helps our mind stay strong and increases our mental activity as we age. Talk about stress reduction. Again, we'll see on college campuses, stress is a big concern. So think about exercising, and being more physically fit actually helps you reduce stress. For those of you guys that do have any type of anger, it's an aggression outlet. So think about time if you've been stressed or you've been worried or you've been angry about something, go work out, go exercise, and your body will release itself of those stressors, of that aggression, and you'll feel so much better through that. Learn psychological skills through activity programs. So again, you can improve the psychological skill through different activities, learning different skills. So again, not just from a health and body physical component, but also a psychological component. There's a lot of benefits from the physical activity as well. So now moving on to components of motor fitness. So again, earlier we talked about the components of health-related physical fitness. This is components of motor fitness. You are going to need to know the difference, so make sure you are paying attention to that. So again, here are the components of motor fitness. The first one here is agility, which is basically the ability to change directions. If you're moving to the right, being able to stop and move to the left, move forward, move backwards, crisscross, whatever it may be. Agility is basically being able to change directions. Balance is being able, either in a static position, which is being stable, steady in one spot, to being dynamic. So even something is moving. So you don't think about this, but when you're walking, you have to balance. If you didn't balance yourself as you were walking, what would happen? You would tip over, you would fall over. So balance is important. Coordination, something in terms of hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination. So a lot of what we do from a movement pattern perspective revolves around coordination. Talking about power. Power is the combination of strength and speed. So you have to have a strength component and a speed component. When you merge speed and strength together, you get what your power output is. And that is very relatable to sports. Because sports do have a speed component. You could be the strongest person in the world, but if you can't move from point A to point B, you might be left behind. Same thing too, you might be the fastest person in the world, but if you're playing any type of contact sport or whatever it is, and you don't have the strength, you might get there faster, but if you don't have the strength to move what you need to move, then that might be detrimental as well. So again, it is based on what sport or what activity you're doing, but power again is the combination of speed and strength. And then quickness is your reaction time. How quickly can you react to something? So again, if you're playing some kind of sport, how quickly can you react to a ball coming at you, to a person, to a signal? You even look at swimming and they get you onto the stands and they say they hit the buzzer, whatever it is. How quick can you respond to that and then move from that position? And then speed is pretty simple. How fast can you get from point A to point B? And those are components of motor fitness. Now, what you need to note is a lot of these are based on your heredity, based on your genetic makeup. So you might have, you're born with a certain level of speed. Obviously, you look at Usain Bolt as the fastest man in the world. So if you were to go out there and work on speed every day, are you going to be as fast as Usain Bolt? No, probably not. However, can you improve your current speed and become faster than what you are right now? Yes, you can. But same thing with agility, balance, coordination, power, and quickness. We are all born with a certain level of that, and we can all improve it to a certain extent. And then more benefits of motor fitness, but improved skill and performance. So again, if you're doing any kind of competitive athletics or sports or intramural sports or just recreational sports, it's going to improve your skill in certain areas. It's going to improve your performance. It gives athletes and active people more enjoyment in playing sports. Obviously, the better you are at something, the more you're going to enjoy it. So if you choose to do sports or activities for exercise, which is phenomenal, that's a great thing to touch on right now too. But so many people think exercising is lifting weights and running on a treadmill. And that's not the case. You can do anything that provides physical fitness, physical activity. So intramural sports, playing a game of soccer, playing a game of ultimate frisbee, going kayaking, all that stuff is activity and helps develop so many different components of your physical activity. But again, the better you are at something, the more you're going to enjoy it. So improving your motor fitness will help you enjoy those activities more because you'll become better at them. Certain components help individuals as they age. So what they mean by that, when you look at balance, when you look at coordination, think about again, as we age, a lot of elderly fall because they've lost some of that balance. They've lost some of that coordination. So again, some of those motor fitness components, particularly as we age, become very, very important. So again, here at the bottom, I think we already touched on that, but while motor fitness can be improved, higher levels of motor fitness are largely inherited. So the other thing that I want to make sure that you make note of, because this will be on the exams and quizzes, but that physical fitness can improve your motor fitness. Okay, not the other way around. So again, your physical fitness, your health-related components of physical fitness can positively impact and improve your motor fitness. So again, when you look at those things that we talked about, from cardiorespiratory endurance to body composition, to muscular strength, to muscular endurance, to flexibility, those components can have that positive impact and improve the motor fitness, such as the agility, balance, coordination, power, quickness, and speed. So make sure that you take note of that. Again, I'll say it one more time, that your health-related physical fitness components can have a positive impact and improve your motor fitness components. So looking at the last thing that we're going to touch on today here in Chapter 1, well, we talked about living a healthy lifestyle. Why start now? Well, the chances are you're still in pretty good health. Most of you guys that are viewing this, that are partaking in this class, are probably in your late teens, early 20s. So again, the chances are that you're still in pretty good health. A lot of times coming out of high school, you've been involved in a lot of activities, whether that's sports or band or whatever else, you've just been more active. So the chances are you're still in pretty good health. So that's why you're starting now, because you're starting from a higher point. If you wait 5, 10, 15 years and your health declines, now your challenge is much harder. Only 23% of Americans get enough physical activity to see results in fitness levels. So again, that's one of those staggering statistics. Let that sink in. Only 23%. That's less than a quarter of Americans that get enough physical activity to see results in their fitness levels. Now, that doesn't mean that just 23% of Americans are exercising or physically active. It means that only 23% of them are actually doing enough to see the results. So again, you'll see a lot as we go on throughout the semester in terms of cardiorespiratory endurance, to muscular strength, to flexibility. and we'll talk about what is recommended and why it's recommended and how much you actually need to be doing to see those positive results. When we talk about cardiorespiratory endurance, if you were to go walk 5 minutes today, 5 minutes in 2 days, if you were to do that 2 or 3 times a week, are you being more physically active? Yes, you are. But are you doing enough to see the positive results in your fitness levels? Probably not. So again, only 23% of Americans are getting enough physical activity to see the results. So that's why you need to start now. So you can move into that 23% that are getting enough physical activity to see positive results. It enables you to establish lifetime activities that will help you maintain and improve your fitness levels. So again, we want to talk about lifetime activities. We want you to be healthy, not just right now when you're 18 or 20 or 22, but when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. We want you to be able to be healthy, and you need to do that now. Again, we talked about chronic disease early on in this chapter, and chronic diseases, it occurs over a lifetime. It's not just a one-day type of thing. So if we can establish these lifetime activities that's going to allow you to be healthier, it's going to have a much greater and positive impact on your life as you progress down those later stages of life. So last thing on here at the bottom, while fitness can be improved at any age, it is harder to accomplish as you get older and possibly have already developed a lifestyle disease. So again, you might not be physically fit right now, and it might be difficult getting up and getting rolling and getting started, but that's just going to be more difficult if you wait another 10 years, if you wait another 20 years. So again, the longer you wait, the harder it is going to become. And the longer you wait, the longer you decide to live that unhealthy lifestyle, the odds are you're already starting to develop some of these chronic lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, becoming overweight, becoming obese, different things like that. So again, we want to start now because the odds are you're still in pretty good health. The younger you are, the easier it is to start, and the more of a positive impact you can have on your health and wellness, not just today, but for the long-term effects going into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because not only are we living longer, we want to make sure your quality of life is great as well. So anyway, that covers chapter 1. Again, guys, we want to make sure we're incorporating these things to live a healthy lifestyle, to have a positive impact, and regardless of what you decide to do after college, what you're studying, what you're trying to become, whether you're going to be a CPA, whether you're going to be a banker, whether you're going to be a construction worker, whether you're going to be a doctor, whether you're going to be a welder, and anywhere in between, having a healthy lifestyle is going to improve all different aspects of your life. It's going to help you perform better, become healthier, live longer, have a higher quality of life. So everything will become better because of that. So if you have any questions over chapter 1, as always, please feel free to email me. Ask me whatever questions you need. If this is good, make sure that you also look at the other 2 PowerPoints associated with chapter 1 on Webcom just to gain some further information. And again, as always, make sure you are utilizing your textbook as well. Read through chapter 1 to pick up on some of the other information that we didn't necessarily cover in this PowerPoint, and then you should be good to take your quizzes and assessments and then progress on to chapter 2.